Hi, we're back again. I know that I'm so thrilled that these people that come in here and share their talents and their dreams with us. So we have another young man that we're going to talk to, and his name is Michael Odom, and he happens to be a poet and a translator. It's going to be exciting. Anyway, hi, Michael.
Hi.
Glad to have
Carol.
you in here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our joy to have people come in and explain their wonderful talents, you know.
Well, this time I want to push somebody other than myself, but my translations, Joan Maragall. I don't know if anyone's... Generally, Americans are not familiar with the Catalan tradition, but right now you might be reading the news. The Catalonia is trying to gain independence, or at least make the world familiar with the fact that they have their own tradition, their own literature, their own art, their own history. Joan Maragall is probably the most important poet of that history. Oh. Yeah, they teach, there's one poem in here that's a common children's poem. Catalonian children just know it. There's poems of the history. He's written poems for the dance, the national dance, for the festivals. And then later, Count Arnaud itself is a great folk tale from that region, in which a count of the Middle Ages actually abducts a nun and is condemned through all of history to ride with the nun on his horse, just ride in circles into flames. Maragall wrote about him throughout his life. I gathered the different poems he wrote about Count Arnaud and put them one after another so it would read like one story. And of course, the poem I'm featuring on my website right now, mousetrap.com, M-A-O-S-T-R-A-P, like Mao, M-A-O is my initials. Mouse trap, shut your trap, Mao. You know, mousetrap.com. The poem I've written is an ode to Spain, which he wrote at the time of the Spanish-American War. Mm-hmm. And at that time, he wrote basically the same subject that we're facing right now. The Catalonians wanting to assert to Spain, hey, you know, we are here too. You know, Catalan is an important language. You should be paying attention to this culture too. That poem ends with "Goodbye, Spain." That's written over 100 years ago, or 100 years ago. No, over 100 years ago, and same issues as right now, but yeah.
So Catalonia is a small part of Spain, right? Or is it? It's not independent yet.
It's not independent. It is the. Most people know where Barcelona is. Barcelona is kind of the rival city to Madrid in many ways. And it's a cultural, because it's a cultural center, because it's an economic center, which is where a lot of the conflict comes from. They tend to have a lot of the industry. Barcelona is the center of Catalonia. That area around there, from like Valencia up to France, that side of Spain, and
well, that's a big part of Spain, right?
It's a pretty big, yeah.
I was thinking maybe this little place that was sitting in the corner or something. This is
a big corner.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, it's a very big part of Spain, and they deserve to be noticed. And the world, I translated this mainly because Joan Maragall deserves to be known. He's the great poet that you've never read because he hasn't been in English.
Also, this is what you're translating his work into English.
Into English from
Wow.
Catalan.
Then you must be very good at speaking Spanish, right?
Not at all. First of all, because it's not Spanish, it's Catalan.
Oh, Catalan.
Which,
they're two separate. Okay.
Well, that's the problem. Is Castilian Spanish versus Catalan, which is actually a separate language.
Wow.
Yeah, with its own history going back almost to the Rome, because it comes from Latin eventually, you know, but its literature goes back, its poetry goes back to the troubadours. And Occitan, however you want to pronounce that. Yeah, it's a beautiful tradition, a European tradition. It doesn't show up in English much. Joan Maragall has not shown up in English much,
Wow.
and you would love these poems. They are so beautiful. They really
Oh.
are. So yeah, and
So,
right now,
when you're working on them now?
I just came out with this one, Joan Maragall. I've worked with a contemporary Catalonian poet as well. Um, I'm looking for my next translation project, but right now I'm still working on my own poems. If you go to mousetrap.com, you'll see like
Oh,
Celine.
that's beautiful too. I didn't see that.
That's my last book. My book is out right now.
Look at this. Beautiful.
That kind of refers back to Catullus, the Latin poet of Roman times, because
So is she Roman?
kind of. This is from the Byzantine era,
Oh.
but the Egyptian mummies. They used to do the Byzantines would do these mummy things instead of they would actually do paintings of the person and have them on. It's actually on wood, and they're beautiful. It's just the most beautiful era. There's another one on the back.
Wow.
Same era, same thing.
Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Celine.
Yeah, my own poems are pretty 21st century in that way, but formal in that but not standardly formal. You know, I have some unrhymed sonnets, but most of the forms I'm basically trying to use Catullus's Latin meter in English,
Wow.
which is they've always say is not possible because it's a falling rhythm and it's qualitative and it's thousand reasons why that's not supposed to be possible, but
But it is. You
yes,
made it possible.
I'm making
Why
it
don't you
possible.
read
as we
something
speak.
for us out of either one of these books?
You know, do you want to do the video of I'm reading Ash Wednesday from this? It's a Catholic. He was a very Catholic poet, but 19th century he translated German, so Goethe, Nietzsche, but he was pushing Catalonian culture, so very Catholic poet, and he's written a poem about Ash, two poems about Ash Wednesday. I made a video just recently of a reading of Ash Wednesday with kind of performance.
I would love that.
Would you like to see that? Can we do that?
Yeah, I'm sure he can do it.
Ash Wednesday. Do not let them put ash on you. Do not let them put ash on you. Idol of youth. For that has nothing to do, the death, the ashes, with you. Do not tarnish with remembrances your forehead, pink and pure. You don't need to have it mentioned in wistful palaver, the diction of priests turning the tables. Because this color of roses that you have in your lips and face is not a thing that's given to soothe an ashen grief. But something you were given, virgin of tender blood, for a different shade of white. not of dust or ash.
Oh, that's fascinating. I love the photographs. Of
Of
course,
the
children are
Bouguereau.
always beautiful, no matter what kind of picture take. They're beautiful.
Those were all paintings from Bouguereau was his name, the French painter, late
Yeah.
19th century. I took them all to emphasize youth. The Ash Wednesday, the poem,
Yes.
it's written to a young girl. It says to a young girl,
wow.
and it's contrasting that, putting ash on you and the memento mori, remember your death. Saying no, you're a little girl. Remember, you have the future. You have life. And he says that different shade of white. He's referring to the
Wow.
wedding dress, of course.
Yes.
Saying no, you should be looking to the future. It's a beautiful poem. They're all beautiful poems.
Oh my gosh! No, I've never really seen somebody with photographs to bring out what they're talking about.
Oh, really?
No.
I think see it as like the great thing film has that haiku has
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
where you takes one thing and then put something completely different next to it, and the brain forms the thought for
Wow.
it. Yeah, that's how film works. You know, you put one scene with one set of characters talking about one thing, bam, another scene, different characters talking about another things, and the brain keeps the story going. It's
Yeah.
haiku works that way, where it takes season, this happening, conclusion, and your brain can put an entire philosophy in there.
Gosh, that's amazing. I never even thought about that, but that's really interesting how the film gets you to go into the story and to know what's there and to know what they're feeling and what they're doing.
Yeah, modernism took a lot of that from Japanese and Chinese poetry. It's why when you pick up T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, or sometimes even these poems, my own poems, it seems like it's on one thing and then the next line is on something else. And what they're trying to do is get the mind to carry through.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And to get them to question what is you're trying to really put across.
Yeah, to find basically in your own mind, because these are my poems, but it's not my English language. So what's happening in your head is much your English language as mine, so it's as much your poem in your head. So what's happening in your head is what you have to pay attention to. The music of it, read slowly, read out loud, and feel it.
Yeah.
And what you think does matter.
That is fantastic. I love that. I love that. And how did you get started into this poetry? Did you always like poetry?
Well, I probably through. I studied in England. I was a philosophy major in college, and I studied in England and spent all my time reading Blake and Kafka instead of philosophy. And I ended up coming back and writing all the time, and it's just, it's always been a very important thing to me, because I have an AA in humanities, a BA in philosophy, and an MFA in poetry. Clearly, I'm not going for vocation.
That is
But,
fantastic.
I
What an
won't,
education.
Well, it's what it says basically is I have a kind of knife at life's throat, where it has to give me the reason to be here, which is why as much as I would love to be a plumber and make a plumber's and have the plumber's thoughts, be I had to give my time to this to make my life mean for me, and
Fabulous.
and right now it is so important that people know about Catalan and Catalonia and Joan Maragall, his books or his poems. People will love this book. they'll like they could love my book. If they're
So this is in
sophisticated, they'll
English
love
now,
it.
right? They
Yes.
can get this book
Yes.
in English. And where do they get it?
You can go to my website, mousetrap.com, or Amazon.
Wait a minute. Say that slower because people have to write things.
Mousetrap. As
Oh,
in
Mousetrap.
Maostrap. Mao. Mao is me.
M-A-O.
Michael Andrew Odom. Mousetrap.com. Amazon.com, BNN.com. I've seen it on anywhere online. Bookstores have not really picked it up, but they could. But you can get it almost anywhere. So
Oh,
please
this
do.
is really wonderful. And this is the one we're talking about, the one with the, she's a nun, right?
I'm sorry?
Is she a nun or just an ordinary
The
person?
painting is of a nun, but Joan is actually the Catalan version of John. It's like Juan,
John.
but John. So Joan Miro, the painter, was
John
a man.
Merigo. This is a beautiful book, and this is translated from a wonderful, wonderful writer, a wonderful person, I'm sure. And this is translated from Catalonian into English. And I'm sure these poems are just going to be absolutely fantastic. And I would say, go out and get it.
Yes, please do. You know, and if you'd like, you can take this one.
You're kidding.
No,
oh
please
my
do.
gosh, thank you so much.
I want the world to know about
Because
it. and
you
I will do.
reintroduced me to Catalonia. I really didn't know that much. I've heard about Spain, but I never realized that what they lay out
in the news a
Spain
lot
was.
right now. So
Oh,
yeah,
my
it's
gosh.
a beautiful culture.
Oh, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome.
And you're going to come back, right?
I will.
Please?
Next
Yes.
book will
Next
be
next
here.
thing, whatever is
Yes.
coming up, you're going to come back.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Carol.
Michael. It was really wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. It was great.
We'll be right back.